I think it's critical and essential that we support companies in America that are all about the values that will lead to our flourishing, not the companies that have succumbed to the woke mind virus and are controlled by larger organizations that are forcing an agenda that will lead to the disintegration and the depravity of our country. And so I've had to learn what got us here, what got us to this place of being so free and being so blessed. And ultimately, it's the faith principles, it's the bedrock truths that our founders understood led to human flourishing. But I think at the end of the day, there is such a curiosity inside of me about wanting to understand true principles that lead to blessing and freedom and prosperity. And I want to share those with other people.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber, and I'm filming here in the lovely Adirondack Mountains. This is God's country. This is our 300th episode of Better for America, and I couldn't be happier to have the following guest with me. He is someone that you all know very well from that great sitcom Growing Pains. He is Kirk Cameron, an American actor, a father, newly grandfather. Just a wonderful man. Kirk Cameron, thank you so much for joining me today. This is an honor to have you with me.
Oh, thank you. Pleasure to be with you today. What a beautiful picture that is there in the background. I'm in Tennessee right now, and really happy to be talking with you this morning.
It is really terrific to have you here. And, you know, this is really interesting. This is really, I feel like, divine intervention to have you here. Let me explain. A couple of years ago, there was a building in our neighborhood. They didn't know if a commercial property was going to be put up in that building. Last year, that property is now our newest library. So I pass the library every day on my way in and out of work. And when I do, I'm not kidding you, I say, thank God for Kirk Cameron when I see the library, because that library, to me, you know, represents a place for young children to gather. And today in this society, we're seeing crazy things happen. Children that are being put in front of drag queens and being taught to hate the body that they're born in. It breaks my heart. I'm a mother, a grandmother. So when I pass the library and I think of you, I say, boy, we're really lucky to have someone like you, so brave and courageous, committed and dedicated to helping our children. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what brought you to do such incredible work, to visit the libraries and to bring wholesome stories to our young ones?
Well, like you, I'm grateful to be living in America. And because I'm a parent, because I'm now a grandparent, I want the future of this country to be bright and safe and a blessing for the next generation. And so I've had to learn what got us here, what got us to this place of being so free and being so blessed. And ultimately, it's the faith principles, it's the bedrock truths that our founders understood led to human flourishing. We find these principles in the scriptures. We find them in the places that George Washington told us to look, and Abraham Lincoln told us to look, and John Adams and Thomas Jefferson told us to look. And I want to lead a movement to return to those values and celebrate the American, biblical, constitutional values that lead to our children's blessing. And I think, how do I do that? Well, my father was a school teacher. My grandparents were teachers. And everyone understands that whoever gets to the children and tells them the stories, whoever gets to author the textbooks, ultimately shape the future. So that's where we need to go. And this should be no surprise to us. That's why we're seeing drag queens in toddler rooms reading them stories. That's why nefarious characters of history like Adolf Hitler said, I'm not concerned about the seniors who disagree with my ideas. I have your grandchildren in my schools. And in 40 years, this will be the only community they will have ever known. So black becomes white, white becomes black, evil becomes good, and good becomes evil in a society where we neglect teaching our children. So that's why I'm writing children's books. That's why I'm producing a children's television show. And that's why we're leading a movement called See You at the Library, August 24th, to bring tens of thousands of parents and grandparents to the public library to pray, to sing the national anthem, and read books of character and virtue to children. It's going to be an incredible day, August 24th. See you at the library.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So important what you're doing. And what I find really interesting is, here you were a very successful actor, and you do say that you never really wanted to be an actor. At what point in time did you recognize you were a young man, that there was something different, that God was calling you to do?
Well, when I was a kid, I wanted to go to college and medical school and become a doctor or some kind of a surgeon. But when I was about 9 years old, my mom took me to visit a talent agent in California, and I started auditioning for commercials like McDonald's and 409 Cleaner and things like that. I landed a role on Growing Pains, and my career took off. So I ended up not going to college. I ended up working as an actor, and I've enjoyed it. But I think at the end of the day, there is such a curiosity inside of me about wanting to understand true principles that lead to blessing and freedom and prosperity, and I want to share those with other people. I guess it's maybe the spirit of the school teacher in my dad and in my grandparents, and the opportunity to be on stages and in front of cameras my whole life that's led me to say, this is what I really think that I was born for, and I'm here to amplify truth and light and get a message out to people that the opposition is not too big. What if this current cultural setback is really a divine setup for a spiritual comeback led by the family of
Mm,
faith? So
I
I'm doing all
love
that I
that.
can where I can to uproot some evil and to plant some seeds of truth and goodness and beauty. And I appreciate so much the work that you're doing and that all of you are doing by being a part of AMAC.
Yeah, well, what you're doing is terrific. It's working, and the courage and for you to step up and step out and speak is so inspiring to other people who often feel sort of crushed under this woke ideology that's permeating every area of life. We see it in hospitals and schools, I mean, in colleges, uh, all of it. It is so important. And I love that message of hope. What if this cultural setback is indeed an opportunity for a revival in America, and we need that
Yeah.
so badly. I want to talk about your books a little bit. Tell us about Brave Books. I was on the website. I've bought the books for my grandchildren. I think they're terrific. Tell us a little bit about Brave Books, and then I want to talk about your newest book that's due to come out, I believe, in October, Born to be Brave.
Well, I think it's really critical and essential that we support companies in America that are all about the values that will lead to our flourishing, not the companies that have succumbed to the woke mind virus and are controlled by larger organizations that are forcing an agenda that will lead to the disintegration and the depravity of our country. So Brave Books is one of the good guys. They're making books with pro God, pro America values, and I've teamed up with them and written 3 children's books about the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. Another book, which is an anti-pride book. It's all about humility. And we released that on
Mm,
the first day of Pride Month to counteract this movement about pride across the country. And we have books about gender identity from God's perspective, the sanctity of all life, little lives, unborn lives, disabled lives, elderly lives. These are the values that we want to teach children. And we're trying to do that through books and television shows. So I want to encourage people to support companies like Brave Books. One of the ways that you could do that is go to bravebooks.com, be a part of See You at the Library, the big national event we just talked about. There's going to be over 500 library story hours across the country, and you can find one there or even host one. You could also be part of the Brave Book Club, which sends one of these pro God, pro America values to your grandchildren or to your children's front door every month. And we're turning every one of those books into an episode of a children's television program called Adventures with Iggy and Mr. Kirk. Imagine a show where your kids are actually learning the values that you hold dear, and they're loving those values. And the show has nostalgic nods to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and also Sesame Street. So all of this is happening at bravebooks.com. Encourage people to go there, check them out, be a part of what we're doing, and support them.
Yeah, that's terrific. And I've ordered the books. I'm waiting for them to come in. I'm just delighted, very excited. So as you know, Kirk, AMAC is comprised of mostly Americans over the age of 50, 50 plus. We are the alternative to AARP. How can Americans 50 and older really have an impact on today's culture and sort of help advance, traditional Christian values in our nation? I think a lot of times older people feel, I've done my time, I've raised my children. It's up to my children now to take care of their own. But I think that there's a huge opportunity for grandparents today to have a profound effect on generations, younger generations. What advice might you give to those listening, to sort of fight some of the darkness that we see, put a light in the darkness?
Yeah, we want the darkness to be shaking in its boots and on its heels, rushing away because of the power of the light that's coming from a generation of grandparents and parents who understand that this is our opportunity to make a massive impact to the return of good values. And I believe that that's true. That's not pie in the sky hopefulness. That's what we're here for. I mean, the truth is that we're being told that, oh, you're retired, you're older, you've done your time, step aside, sit in the corner and be quiet. No. That's not how it works. We want our children to stand on our shoulders. We've already laid a foundation of values. We've made some mistakes, but now's our opportunity. Now that we're perhaps we don't have kids in the house. My wife and I, our children are grown and are out of the house. We're now grandparents. And this is the opportunity where I have some more time that I didn't have when I was raising little kids. My overhead has come down a little bit since I'm not feeding 6 little kids. And now there's an opportunity to gather up the wisdom that we've learned after decades of life experience. And we have a better perspective, and now to be able to support our children and guide them and use the time, the resources that we have to give them the wisdom that they need and the support that they need. The Bible says that a young man's glory is his strength, but an old man's glory is his wisdom. This silver crown on our heads with the silver hair is a testimony to God's faithfulness to us. We didn't die in our youth. He's working all things together for good for those who love him. And the wisdom that you have is desperately needed by the young ones. And this can be our finest hour. That's why I'm encouraging people that we don't need to be afraid of the evil and the darkness. We overcome evil with good. And seniors, grandparents, we are an invaluable resource. Our kids and grandkids need us. And times of great awakenings have always happened in periods of moral apathy, spiritual decline, economic collapse, and political corruption. I'd say we're teed up for another great awakening right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And we all need to lean in together, young and old.
That's exactly right. And my mother, I have to bring up my mother. She absolutely adores you and your sister as well. She's hooked on all of the great films that your sister is helping to produce. Your family, I was watching some YouTube videos and I saw your lovely family. You have a son who has an incredible voice, by the way. I mean, just incredible. But I think that you shared in that video that your children are all very involved in what you do in some way, shape, or form. Something else we have in common. My children all work for one of our companies in one way, shape, or form. They're all multi-talented. But I think that's where it's at. It's encouraging our children. It's about teaching children that they have a God-given gift, each and every one of us. We are wonderfully made. And God does have a purpose for us. It is the whole purpose of life, ultimately, is to seek out what purpose our Creator God has for each and every one of us. So what you've done with your family and your siblings is really remarkable. Can you tell us a little bit about, the importance of family and how you continue now, even as a grandfather, to really build that um, opportunity for your children to lean into all that you do?
Well, I'm certainly grateful for any opportunity I have to engage with my kids. Just the fact that they're grown, they're out of the house, and they still want to come over for dinner is a great blessing
Exactly.
for me and for my wife. So I believe that the family is God's primary instrument for advancing his kingdom. Um, certainly, the attacks that we see on the family and on the family of faith by governments who seek to replace parents in public schools and replace God as a provider and as a protector and be the giant government supreme being that dictates your life from cradle to grave is all a testimony to the nature of family being the most powerful organization in the world. God created it. It's as old as the Garden of Eden. You have a man and a woman, and they become one flesh, and they produce children. And that family unit is this small sovereign sphere that can protect against government tyranny and can advance the good and the true and the beautiful. This is critical for us to understand. So we've got to lead our children, not farm them out to other people to raise. We've got to look
Yeah.
to the one in heaven who made us and loves us and has a plan for us as our provider and protector, and not subcontract our children and our daily needs out to people who want to replace all of that. And I know that that's what you're about. I'm preaching to the choir here. And
But
that's
you
why
know,
I
it's
think when we lean into family, we lean into faith, we're leaning into freedom for the future.
That's right. And a lot of folks too feel that politics should be separate and apart entirely from, let's say, religion. And I say that if you're not going to the ballot box and you don't understand what your candidate, the very person who's going to have some level of power and decision making over how our lives are run, potentially, everything from abortion to the right to carry and bear arms, and all of these issues that impact all of us. I think it's a mistake for people to, and Christians especially, it seems like, to, are very kind people generally, and say, I don't want to cause trouble. I don't want to raise my voice. We see this in churches too, churches that are saying, we don't want to talk politics at all. How do you really separate the two when there is a political far left that is all about abortion, at any time during pregnancy, indoctrinating our children, ensuring equal outcomes. That's what we hope to see in heaven, not here on earth. It's just not a reality, right? Equity. This is what they're pushing for. How do we encourage people to, stand up, be brave, and speak out if you see something that goes against your very values? Do you see that
Yeah.
happening more? I mean, I see it happening more, but a lot of people are still quiet and shy about it.
Yeah. And that's understandable because the blowback, the pushback, the consequence, the cost of standing up for truth in a culture like right now is intimidating. And many people
Mm.
are fearful. And I think the solution is kind of two part. One is get a backbone. We need to understand that if we don't put steel in our spines and stand up and speak up for what's right, other people will. And you just turn on the news and you'll see how all that's happening everywhere. They're emboldened by their wickedness. They don't even know what's making them stumble. They think this is going to lead to power for them, but ultimately, the whole system will collapse in on itself if we don't get back to the things that lead to health. The other thing I think we need to do is understand the lie, the bait and switch that's going on, and that is that religion and faith and government politics should all be separated because of the separation of church and state. Well, they're getting us to bite on the bait of kindness and tolerance and all of that, but they're switching the religion out for secular humanism. And they're
Mm.
not really being secular at all. Atheism is very much a religion. It's a worldview that has a position on the existence of God, and the functional God of atheism is corporate man, the state, the government, the powers that be up at the top. And they effectively want to supplant God and be the source of all law. So replacing the 10 commandments with love and kindness is not the deal. It's replacing the 10 commandments with the 10,000 commandments of the
Right.
state government. That's really what it is. But they do it so slowly, they do it so covertly that many don't understand it. And then they'll shame you into being a bad Christian if you get involved in politics, when our founders said the exact opposite. They said it's to our shame that we don't vote according to our values and to our faith. All the founding fathers recognized that there's only one set of values and morals and principles that lead to flourishing for everyone in a nation like ours, and it's Christian values.
Mm.
Noah Webster, who gave us Webster's dictionary, founding father, father of American education, said, all civil governments are based on some religion or philosophy of life. And the education of that nation propagates the religion of the nation. He said, in America, that foundational religion was Christianity. They all understood it. And he said it was sown into the hearts of Americans for centuries through the schools, public and private, and through the home. And it led to our freedom, our blessing, and our growth. He said, our future growth and success depends on educating our children in the principles of Christianity. So
Mm.
this isn't about getting rid of religion. This is about an extreme group of elite people who have been infected by a woke mind virus that want to simply replace one religion, swap it out for another that leads to their blessing and everyone else's demise. It's called
Mm.
secular humanism, Marxism, communism. It all goes one of two ways. The authority and responsibility is put into the hands of the people, and then we begin to govern ourselves and our families and our communities and our states, and very limited civil government at the federal level, or we push all of the power, authority, and responsibility to the federal government level, and then you turn into China, you turn into Cuba, you turn into Venezuela, you turn into the kinds of places where people are eating zoo animals for food and looking to the government as their god. So we have a choice to make.
Yeah. And it's so important that we don't forget history and that we continue to teach our children the truth.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
it's happened before, it can certainly happen again. And it's the reason why Dan Weber formed AMAC and why we're holding a number of boot camp for boomer events. This is opportunity for people to get involved, to hear what's happening, to learn how they can have a bigger impact, and we give them the tools to do that. So a reminder to everyone out there listening, September 14th on Long Island. And hey, you never know, maybe Kirk Cameron will stop in
That's great.
if he's in
I'm
town.
crashing some of
He'll,
these story hours at libraries, and it just
yeah.
might be yours. So please come.
Exactly, that's right. Okay, so before we let you run, I just want to make sure everybody understands this great book that's coming out. Tell us a little bit more about when they can get their hands on it, and a little bit what people are going to get out of reading this great book.
Well, the book that I am releasing is called Born to be Brave. It's actually available right now for pre-order. It's coming out in October. And the question I want you to ask yourself is with everything going on in the country that has gotten you upset and discouraged and fearful, what if this current cultural setback is really a divine setup for a spiritual comeback led by the family of faith? What if the opposition is not so big that we can't overcome it? What if this is our training in courage and humility and bravery? I believe that if God has put his spirit inside of your heart, you have a birthright of courage that I want to help you activate. I want to remind you through this book of our spiritual backstory, because that becomes our roadmap for the future. I want you to know how to engage your friends and your family with the gospel truths that apply not only to your family, but also to your church and to your civil government, that will lead America back to its flourishing again, not just for Christians, but for everybody. And that's what Born to be Brave sets out to do, and I hope you'll get a copy.
Oh, I can't wait to get my hands on it. I can't wait to learn more and see this Adventures with Iggy and Mr. Kirk. When will that be airing?
So Iggy and Mr. Kirk is set to come out in October. We've just wrapped the first 2 seasons of filming, and it's just adorable. It is eye-opening, and it's character building. So I hope everyone has a chance to see it. If you go to bravebooks.com, you can see trailers and highlights and little sneak peeks of what Adventures with Iggy and Mr. Kirk looks like.
And will people be able to get that on YouTube, or will you be joining with another network where
Yes,
it will be airing?
we're making it available for free for everyone to see on as many platforms as possible.
Wow,
So you'll see
terrific.
it everywhere. It'll it'll be available. It won't be hard to find.
Excellent. Oh, that's terrific. Kirk Cameron, what a delight to have you here to help me celebrate 300 episodes of Better for America. This is just a terrific opportunity for people to really dig in and understand how you can play a bigger part. Here I'm getting eaten up by all the bugs, but you can play a bigger part in really protecting your children, your grandchildren, and inspiring others around you to do the same. We have an America to save, and it starts in the family.
That's
Kirk
right.
Cameron, thanks again for being here, and God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you too.
Have a great day. Thank you, everyone.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.